With Kojima's separation from Konami, it's likely this is the last time the gaming world will see a true Metal Gear Solid game. Even if Konami creates another tactical espionage game under the name of Metal Gear, it won't have the same science fiction-y yet historic, preachy but pervy style of video game storytelling that seems synonymous with Kojima's name. Is the series' zaniness intentional or unintentional, or a perfect combination of both? Whatever Metal Gear logic actually is, there's no denying it helped shape the video game market over the past few decades, and it's sad to see it go. I, for one, will miss its gratuitous use of slow motion. But with Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain essentially closing the book on the story of all the snakes and big bosses out there, is it a worthy final chapter? In short, yes. And not so short, yeah, mostly, but man, the things that bother me with the game really bother me.
Follow me, big boss!
In non-traditional Metal Gear form, let's start from the beginning. Picking up after the events of Ground Zeroes, players wake up as Big Boss, aka Snake in this episode, in an unknown hospital after being in a coma. Everyone seems to be out to get you, including a female assassin, a small army of soldiers, a seemingly invincible man on fire, and a flying child in a gas mask. Snake escapes with the help of Ocelot, and together the two rebuild Mother Base, a mid-oceanic military superstructure. Snake and crew then fight back against Skullface, a villain who wants to commit a whole plethora of atrocities, but mostly focuses on genocide through the use of a biological weapon he's designed, and, of course, this episode's Metal Gear, an upright bipedal nuclear weapon called Sahelanthropus. But before the finale, Snake has to undergo a variety of missions across Afghanistan and eventually Africa, where players are given an assassination, sabotage, or rescue target. A few missions ramp up the pace where there's only a small window of time before the target leaves the area of operation, or Snake will have to single-handedly take down convoys of mobile ordnance. For the most part, Snake can operate alone, but he doesn't have to. There are unlockable mission buddies that can be brought in to help. Snake's trusty horse makes moving across the gigantic open maps a little bit easier, but I oftentimes parked him in the middle of the road to delay traffic, allowing me to sneak in from behind. There's a dog who can sniff out enemies and even take out a few if you're in a pinch. Later, a small walker gear can be brought in that can act like a faster mode of transportation, but can also be equipped with some bigger guns and heavier armor. And then there's Snake's quiet sniper companion named Quiet. She's quiet. She also doesn't wear much. Turns out it's because she breathes through her skin. Yeah, that's it. In terms of gameplay, this is a giant step forward for the series, and for stealth games everywhere. Snake is easy to control and doesn't feel tanky like he used to in the old days. He's quick when the guns start blazing, but he can definitely be slow and skulky the rest of the time. Most of the game can be completed without trying to be sneaky, but if you want to get those high S and A grades, you're gonna have to put that missile launcher down and reach for some tranquilizer darts instead. But each mission feels like everything is up to the player. Ingress and extraction points, what type of camouflage to wear, which weapons, if any, you take with you. And this freedom feels great for a game like Metal Gear. In between missions, feel free to roam the open world and cash in by rescuing random animals or by stealing supplies from military installations. Or just blow stuff up. But when you need a break from the action, you can always call for an airlift and ride back to Mother Base. Building Mother Base is the game's clever way of handling a level system. Snake doesn't gain levels in stealth or firearms, but the Mother Base staff does level up in things like intelligence reporting, research and development, and more. Certain guns and equipment can't be unlocked or created without having a large enough or an experienced enough staff, so it's up to Snake to obtain building materials and collect the seed money by taking on operations in the field. It boils down to a miniaturized sim game where you even have to, sometimes, deal with rowdy staffers. But all of this is handled through your iDroid, Snake's handheld holographic computer, which makes both my old 286 and even my current phone look like crap. Speaking of mind-blowing awesome technologies, this is all set back in 1984, so mullets aren't out of place, and neither are some great licensed tracks like She Blinded Me with Science and You Spin Me Round Like a Record. You can hear soldiers listening to these 80s hits while you're out in the field, and if you steal their cassette tapes, you can play them for yourself later, and even set them as the tune your helicopter plays when it comes to pick you up.
Target acquired. Get hot.
But before I get too long-winded and totally off topic, I can't stress how much I love the gameplay in MGS5. It's something I'll be tinkering with for a while. Sneak in, complete objective, sneak out, get paid, improve gear, repeat. Everyone will play the game differently too. Some players may study an entire base's movements, looking for a weakness in the AI's patterns, while others will want to play it by ear and test their stealth skills. I could go on and on for hours about how much I love it, and truthfully, I hope the game continues to sell well to inspire other developers to possibly improve upon the open world stealth design. The game looks fantastic. It runs at a solid frame rate. I didn't encounter any performance-hindering glitches, so right off the bat, I can easily say graphics and gameplay get 2 huge thumbs up from me. But I'm not all praises for MGS5. The writing, story, and pacing for Metal Gear Solid 5 are horrible. Just horrible. It's uncertain whether this is a result of poor planning and execution, or if it's because Konami decided to pull the plug on the project before it was finished. Personally, I feel it's the latter, but as it is, MGS5 is riddled with plot holes, incomplete story arcs, nonsensical story arcs, and a whole lot of story jumping. But the whole experience isn't this way. Players will be absolutely wowed by the opening hospital sequence. It's a little long, but it's super refined. The same can almost be said for the entire first act of the game. It can jump around at times, but there's a good amount of polish there. Act 2 is a whole different beast. Recycled missions and stories that jump entirely too quickly without any proper exposition are par for the course. Most of the story is told in cutscenes before and after missions. There's very little storytelling through gameplay, but that's semi-normal for Metal Gear. What's abnormal is the absolutely ungodly amount of audio files that the game just dumps on the player to listen to. At first, I thought they were totally optional, and I guess they still are, but skipping them cuts out really important parts of the story. It's a sloppy way to progress the tale. And the normal ending is just lame. After putting dozens, or maybe even 100 hours or more into the game, there's no emotional payoff, with a killer final level where Snake has to sneak into a facility that would rival Mother Base, or Big Shell, or a memorable final boss sequence. This weak ending is a stark contrast to the horrifying introduction. It set the pace for the entire game. The ending simply couldn't keep up with that pace. The secret ending to the game is even more lame. Trying to avoid spoiler territory, players will see that the big reveal was planned long ago, even while developing Ground Zeroes, but that big reveal sort of took the wind out of my sails, and kinda made me want to stop playing. That and the irreparable loss of one of my favorite buddies. The secret ending made me feel like everything I had just done was sort of for nothing in the grand scheme of Metal Gear things. And I think what my biggest complaint about the story is what Konami has presented as the antagonist. Essentially, Skullface looks like Skeletor, has intentions like Hitler, and he has access to nuclear weapons, and yet I felt absolutely no real rush or urge to take him and his forces down. He is, without a doubt, the most flaccid villain in the entire Metal Gear franchise, yet he's driven by the clearest cause. When he speaks, he drones on and on about how he and Snake are polar opposites, 2 cogs in the same gear, but in no way is that made evident in the game. Saying it aloud doesn't make it so, Konami. But he could be a powerful villain if the writing was clearer and more concise, and perhaps the end to Ground Zeroes should have been a secret or a flashback mission in the game. That would have given players a clear emotional tie to the villain and to some of the other characters in the game. As it is, people who jump right into the Phantom Pain without playing anything else will find themselves a little lost and disconnected. A draft of the true ending to the game that was cut by Konami leaked onto YouTube, with a showdown between Snake, another character whose name I'll omit, and of course a giant Metal Gear. Having watched that ending after finishing the game, it's blatantly obvious that that's the way the game should have wrapped up, and would have tied the game nicely into other Metal Gear games. Essentially, it would have shifted the title of the game's true antagonist as well. As it is, the story is the weakest in the entire series. It lacks any sort of hook. There's no controversy, aside from what Quiet isn't wearing to keep people talking. What few twists exist don't feel clever enough to hold a candle to the rest of the series. And as I said before, some stories are either missing entire chunks, or they simply stop for no reason. I'd even go as far as to say that there's a whole set of stories that start for no reason. One final thing that irked me, and I'll stop my tirade. The game's online invasion system feels like a total waste of time to me. Invading other people's mother bases sounds like an awesome idea, but most people won't dive into it more than once or twice. This multiplayer mode simply has no staying power. A few devoted fans might hack away at each other for a little while, but the majority of the players won't find much real reason to continue with it. Winning and losing don't affect the rest of the game much, and once you've seen your own mother base, you've pretty much seen everyone else's too. Personally, I would have preferred if they gave this entire system the axe and put more time into fixing up the game's second act. The voice acting is mostly spot on. There's one or two cringy voices in the mix, but they're easily in the minority. At first, I missed David Hayter a little, but I got over that pretty quickly after I remembered some of his exaggerated, gravelly deliveries. I really am gonna miss Metal Gear. I was never a die-hard fan of the series, but I certainly appreciate it. All in all, MGS5 The Phantom Pain is one of the year's finest games that simply had the plug pulled on it way too soon. Gameplay-wise, it's the best in the entire franchise. Story-wise, it's the weakest, and it's frustrating to see what it could have been. But I suppose it's about the journey and not the destination, right? It's just hard to keep that in mind when the destination turns out to be the middle of nowhere. The gameplay is just too good to pass up. Every stealth fan everywhere, even if you've disliked Metal Gear games in the past, shouldn't miss this. The freedom given to the players puts MGS5 into a league that few other games can compete in. Any warm-blooded gamer who enjoys any sort of action game should pick up The Phantom Pain on their platform of choice.
Yes, mission complete. Boss, that was exceptional.
This video is made possible through generous fan donations on Patreon.